Welcome back to the channel, you guys. I know, it's been a while since I have seen y'all, maybe since like the beginning of the year. Apologies, I am so sorry, but you know, life got in the way, but now like I'm back in focus and we're here to talk about some more film. I'm gonna give y'all a lot more videos consistently. And so today I'm coming to y'all so we can talk about the buzziest film of the weekend. What is that? Well, as you can tell by the title of the video, the drama. Okay, so it is officially April 2nd, meaning that, you know, for the April vlog, this is gonna be the first film. Why they have to rev the engine when I start recording? Anyways, it's officially April 2nd, meaning that we're kicking off our April recap video and the first film of the year. Since it's April 2nd, like you already know what this film is going to be. It's the drama. I haven't been reading into the drama too much. I feel like people get a little too unserious about Zendaya, but then also like people aren't serious enough about Zendaya. Like it doesn't, like the pendulum keeps swinging on her. So I try not to ever read things before I see for myself what she produces. Obviously Robert Pattinson I like as well. So we'll see what the film has in store for me. I am going with one of my best friends, Kaylin. I'm actually gonna walk and get her right now, and then we are gonna head into the theater, and then I'll be back and let y'all know what my like immediate thoughts are. So, see you then. This is my bestie, Kaylin.
Hey y'all.
Say hi to the channel, Kaylin. Okay, Kaylin, what are your thoughts before we go in?
Honestly, the trailers didn't really give much away. I know that they're probably in an abusive relationship, but that's it. I'm really excited. My girl Zendaya is in it and love to support her, and Robert Pattinson, so you know, yeah. Did I say his name right?
No, but it's
What's
fine.
His name?
Pattinson?
Pattinson?
Yeah.
I just learned that man's name today. I call him the star of Twilight, that's it. But this is my movie-going expert friend, so I'll leave it to you to remember people's names.
Yes.
Zendaya, I remember, okay?
We always remember Zendaya, you know? So, okay, yeah. But we'll be back with our thoughts for after we watch the film. Okay. Okay, so we watched the film. What are your first thoughts?
You go first.
If I was to give a word for the film, I would say balance. I would say balanced.
Balance? That's it? That's all you're giving me?
Yeah.
No, I need more.
No, I would say I'm gonna give more.
Later?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because this is part of the video. My bad, y'all. I'm giving you more hard time. But I would say I was surprised, and definitely not a movie about an abusive relationship whatsoever. But yeah, it was good. It was good. Thank you for taking me.
Yes, thank you for coming. Okay, you guys, so I am back to rewatch the drama, but this time I'm with a new baddie. Hi. Everybody say hi to Savannah. This is my friend. Yes, so we're gonna go see the drama again, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna let you get her thoughts, okay? Cool, bye.
All right, guys, we just got out of the movie theater, and I thought it was a little bit boring. Not gonna lie. Okay, thank you. I thought it was a little bit boring. I'm sorry.
As soon as you pulled out that phone, I was about to do the same. Like, so guys, don't even waste your time.
Don't even waste your time, genuinely. I mean, great poster. Like, love the looks, love Zendaya, but that was a little bit of a snooze.
Oh, God.
What did you think?
I thought it was fine. I liked it.
See,
it was
fine
good.
doesn't mean good.
No, it was good. I liked it. I laughed. I had fun.
Yeah, it had funny moments, I think.
Yeah, I think the editing was really good. I think the editing was really good.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Editing. Yeah. I think once she told him the story of like why she like backed out of the school shooting, I honestly didn't think she was that bad, and everyone was like thinking the worst of her. But other than that, yeah, it was probably a very dramatic, I mean, it was the dramatic wedding. The drama.
Yes.
So yeah, that's my rating. I would probably
I had a blast.
I would probably give it a.
Oh,
my jacket.
Yep.
Thank you. I would probably give it a 2.5 out of 5.
Ooh.
What would you say?
Wow. Interesting. They'll hear my thoughts in just a second.
Okay.
So the drama. The drama is directed and written by Kristoffer Borgli. It is produced by SquarePeg and distributed by A24. The producers are Ari Aster, Kristoffer Borgli, and Amy Green. And the cinematographer is Arseni Kakatoran. And the editors are Kristoffer Borgli himself and Joshua Raymond Lee. And casting was done by Kate Antognini and Carmel Cochran. Starring Zendaya as Emma, Robert Pattinson as Charlie, Alana Haim as Rachel, Mamadou Athie as Mike, Haley Gates as Misha, and a plethora of other great actors. So the drama is a film that I found to be like immensely thought-provoking. I think this film is about marriage, it's about communication, it's about modern day love, it's about secrets, it's about mistakes, it's about gun violence, it's about mass shootings, but I think ultimately this film is about trust. This film follows the days leading up to a young woman, Emma, played by Zendaya, and a young man, Charlie, played by Robert Pattinson's wedding, where a dark revelation from Emma's past is brought to light, and everyone involved must decide whether the revelation is one they're willing to accept or distance themselves from. So we can get into like my main takeaways from this film. I want to first start with Zendaya and Robert Pattinson because obviously they are the two leads of this film. This film is about their union or them as a duo because they are engaged and are newlyweds by the end of the film. So when we talk about Zendaya as a duo, right, let's just talk about Zendaya pairings historically. So when it comes to Zendaya pairings, obviously you have Zendaya and Hunter Schafer, you have Zendaya and Tom Holland, you have Zendaya and Zac Efron, you have Zendaya and John David Washington, you have Zendaya and Timothy Chalamet, you have Zendaya and Josh O'Connor, you have Zendaya and Mike Feist, and you have Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. And when I think about that whole list or slate of romantic role partners, I should say, for Zendaya, I can't say that Zendaya and Robert Pattinson are my favorite of that list for Zendaya. I would say Zendaya and like Mike Feist is my favorite because I think The Challengers is the film of Zendaya's current filmography that really allowed her to like lean into the romanticism of her role more than the others did. And I think like second up would probably be like Zendaya and Hunter Schafer. So I'm going to give it to Zendaya and Mike Feist there, right? But then when we go to the other end of that spectrum, when we go to the Robert Pattinson side, right? What are the Robert Pattinson pairings that we're talking about here? So you have like Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart. You have Robert Pattinson and Emile de Ravin. You have Robert Pattinson and Nicole Kidman. You have Robert and Zoe Kravitz. You have Robert and Naomi Ackie. You have Robert and Jennifer Lawrence. And you have Robert and Zendaya. And of his slate of romantic role partners, who would I say is my favorite or the best in my opinion? I would say Zoe Kravitz, but I feel like it's a little biased because it's kind of like already like imbued with a whole bunch of preconceptions in regards to the characters they're playing, i.e. Batman and Catwoman. And also like they're not doing a lot of like romanticism in that film either. But for some reason like the energy was just still there. Like I don't know, like it just hits. Like I don't know, the Bat and the Cat, like it just hits for me. I know a lot of people are gonna be like Robert and Kristen Stewart, of course, is the best of that slate. And it's like, I was Team Jacob. I know a lot of people are like, if you're Team Jacob, you're just trying to be different. But I felt that like the connection that Kristen Stewart had with Taylor Lautner in New Moon and Eclipse was like magnitudes more than whatever she had with Robert Pattinson throughout the whole entire series. But you know, to each their own. And so even then I would say like Robert and Zendaya on the Robert end isn't like my favorite pairing for Robert Pattinson when it comes to his romanticism or his romantic role partners on screen. That goes to say that I felt that when it came to both of them as a duo, the film was barely selling me the fantasy there. Like it was doing enough just for me to believe that these two people are technically like engaged and are getting married, but it wasn't doing any more than that. I felt like the opening scene between them was cute at most. I think it does more for their individual characters and their character building individually rather than like as a duo, as a couple. I felt like most of their scenes did that. We can go to like the first date scene, or you can go to like the first kiss scenes. Like they're just not believable as like a couple. Like I don't believe that those two people like that I'm looking at on the screen like actually would be together in real life. Like they're not selling it really to me, but I think that they didn't have to really sell it because the film doesn't require them to do that. I think like the sex scenes too, like obviously when you're talking about like romanticism and romantic dynamics on screen, sex sex plays a big part in that. And in this film, like, we get only like 2 sex scenes. And so you have like, which is not really a sex scene in the first one, it's a sex montage. It's like literally like 10 seconds of like 4 different scenes, sex scenes, which we don't really get to see. Now, I saw the film twice, as you already know, but so like I can remember more from that montage than I think more people who just purely walked away from their first experience from it and haven't turned back to it would. But even then, you also have the actual other sex scene in the film, which is a failed sex scene in the film. So it's not even sexy, it's very uncomfortable. So like even the sex, they're not even selling sex. They're not really selling sexy in this film a lot. So it's like they're just doing enough for you to just believe that those two are together, but they're not going over the top for it. And so those two as a duo really just didn't like hit for me. Like, I'm not raving about that, and I'm not going to. I'm not gonna like down it either, because I think it was fine for what the film required, but it was nothing more than that. And both of them do very well in this film as a couple. I just feel that their strongest scenes in the film were when they were away from each other, oddly. And like the final scene is just enough to finish the film up, but it could have been stronger in my opinion. So that goes to say, this film does surround them as a couple. Now, what is the crux of this film? Well, they are in the leading weeks up to their marriage. And so, you know, they're in that period where, you know, we're making checks, we're signing them, we're sending them off, we're tasting stuff, we're saying A-okay to everything, right? We're finalizing everything. We're about like 2 weeks out, I would say, maybe 2 or 3 weeks out from the actual marriage. And they then go to taste the actual cuisine that they are going to have at their wedding, I should say, with Charlie, Robert Pattinson's character's best friend Mike, and his girlfriend Rachel, who is now friends with Emma, right? And so just to get like a second opinion, I believe. And they're eating, but they're also like 4 bottles deep into wine, because they're tasting the wine as well. It might be more than that. It's 4 people, and I feel like I could kill a bottle of wine myself. So it might really be like 6, 8 bottles deep in wine. However, they get on this topic of like, what's the worst thing you've ever done in life, right? And Mike, who's played by Mamadou Athie, he goes first, and he says that basically the worst thing that he's ever done in his life is he used a woman he was on a date with as a shield or a weapon against like a feral street dog that they encountered, right? And it was also her birthday, so it's just very, very odd, very weird. He feels very ashamed about it, right? And then you have Rachel, who's played by Hotham. She goes to say that when she was younger, like maybe like in her early teens, middle school years, she locked a neurodivergent kid in a closet of an abandoned house in the middle of the woods, and like just ditched him there, and like did not tell anybody that he was there. And then he later was found, but she just did not care to tell anyone that she locked a special needs kid in a closet in the middle of the woods in like a kind of a scary situation. And then you have Charlie, who's played by Robert Pattinson. He says that the worst thing that he's ever done is he cyberbullied someone in high school to the point where they had to leave the high school and also move to a different city. And then last, we have Emma, who comes out and says that she plotted to commit mass murder by way of a school shooting during her early years in high school. And so this is like, you know, something that no one would expect to be said. But both times that I saw this film in the theaters, people gasped. I wouldn't say everybody in the room gasped, but I would say half of the room gasped both times that revelation was given to us. Because I think a lot of people went into this film not believing that this was going to have like a dark turn to it, in the sense of like a niche dark turn. I think a lot of people believe, like my 2 friends, they believe that this is going to be like a story about like abuse. Like they're peddling this film to be about like this couple, but it's really like going to be like, oh, Charlie is just like abusive, right? And that's what the drama is going to be. But it's not that. It's something more questionable, I would say, but also more interesting. So this dark revelation by Emma brings us to this conversation surrounding mass shootings and gun violence. And I think this is probably like one of the most intriguing traits of this film. It is the most intriguing trait of this film, that it wants us to spark this conversation surrounding gun violence and mass shootings. Now, I am somebody who is a zillennial cusper, and if you don't know what that means, it means that somebody who's like either like the youngest millennial or either like the oldest member of Gen Z, right? They're cuspers on the cusp of the 2 generations. And as somebody who's on that like oldest of Gen Z side of the cusp, And we experience in our adolescence and childhood a lot of conversation imbued with the subject matter of mass shootings and gun violence, right? Because it's just so prevalent during our adolescence and childhood. You can go from whether it's school shootings like Columbine, Sandy Hook, Parkland. You can go to police brutality, where it's like Trayvon Martin's murder, Mike Brown's murder, Alton Sterling's murder. You can go to mass casualty events that were popular, like Aurora Theater shooting, Pulse nightclub shooting, or the Roots 91 Harvest Music Festival in Las Vegas shooting. All of those things were occurring in our adolescence, and we were constantly having to have these conversations surrounding mass shootings and gun violence. But then that same demographic, the cuspers of the zillennials, our young adulthood has been very distant from that conversation, in my opinion. And I think that we've become very desensitized because of social media, obviously, but also it's been kind of very normalized in society as well that these type of mass casualty events occur in our society. And we're also just like very individualistic society now, and social media, I would say like us becoming adults during this like boom of social media era, like the late 2010s or like early 2010s, has kind of like doubled the level of individuality that we seek out as adults, which kind of like lessens our ability to be more communal and care about what's best for like the community, because a lot of us don't have community. The film brings this conversation back around to us, but instead of trying to tackle it head on by making like the assailant of the mass shooting the primary focus of the conversation, the film decides to shed light on like the children who became consumed by lingering ideations that such a prevalent experience potentially bred in many children at the time's minds who are adults today, i.e. the character of Emma, which brings us around to where the film is depicting younger Emma's life. And I do just want to shout out Jordan Currit, who plays younger Emma. I think she did stellar. She reminds me a lot of like Jasmine Savoy from The Leftovers, a young Jasmine Savoy, I should say, from The Leftovers. I think it's because obviously they're biracial, they have glasses, they have the frizzy hair, X, Y, and Z. But she was stellar in this film. I thought she did a great job. I would like to see her in more things. So then when we move on to looking into the character of Emma and her younger self, who had these ideations and planned to commit this mass shooting, we just dissect everything about her, right? And so we get this background on Emma where she moved to a new town at the age of 10 because a childhood friend of hers died in a car crash, and she like witnessed the aftermath of the car crash, and it was very traumatic for her. And then at the age of 14, she moved to another new town because I believe her father, who was in the military, had to get stationed somewhere else. So she kind of like had this like fractured ability to develop like friendship or to heal properly, so then she could redevelop friendships in her adolescence. And when she moved to this new town at the age of 14, she ended up getting bullied. She was being called odd looking. She got pushed into like mud puddles. She was told that she smelled, and I'm pretty sure more and more things occurred to her during that time. And so she just became very isolated from human connectivity, especially because her parents weren't present in her household. You can see in the film, they show us that like her mom was probably like at work or doing something, and she always left her money to eat dinner, and they left her a note. And then her dad, I presume, like we don't get her dad or any instance of her dad in her childhood flashbacks. So I presume that he was just like stationed somewhere in the military, like he was on deployment, and so he just wasn't at home, which also makes sense because how does your child like get a hold of your guns, right? And so she became very infatuated with the aesthetic of gun wielding, right? Because she's feeling powerless, and that results in her going to these extremes to balance out the insecurity that she's feeling when she feels powerless, but also that she feel like that she's like humanity is meaningless in a sense, right? And she's utilizing like the utmost tool of eradicating humanity, which is guns, which seems like a simple solution to the mind of a child, right? Especially when it's unchecked. And using a gun requires you to inflict pain. So then she's going to obviously resort to trying to inflict pain on people who are surrounding her, because she's not perceiving her classmates or people at her school as like humans who she values. She doesn't value humanity. She's so decrepit of that humaneness within her at that moment. But she gets superseded by another mass shooting that happens at a local mall, and one of her classmates ends up dying in that mass shooting, and she witnesses the damage that such an act does to people who surround her, i.e. her classmates and her peers. She sees her classmates crying when the news is broke, and then she sees her classmates who are calling out the absurdity of just like somebody who can commit a mass shooting, and then she sees that her classmates are like pointing out the lack of like women mass shooters, which kind of like pisses her off because obviously she was going to be one of those. But then I think that kind of like sparks a click in young Emma's brain that like she knows so much about mass shootings, and she then spots like the ignorance that other people have in regards to gun violence. But at the same time, she goes through this like therapeutic exercise in her gymnasium with her classmates, and she feels the pain. She sees the pain that's been inflicted, and it kind of like clicks with her. She notices that like, oh, I have like this ample knowledge on this thing, but I was using my knowledge on this thing, i.e. guns and the usage of guns, to inflict pain, whereas now I don't want to inflict pain anymore. I want people to feel good. So what am I going to do with that knowledge? And that leads her to joining this anti-gun violence coalition at her school district with some friends that she makes. And she ends up like building like, or finding, I should say, like new community. And so it's like kind of like that mass shooting occurring before she could allow it to, or make it occur, before she could be the mass shooting initiator. She kind of got like, a wake-up call, and she snaps out of it, and she finds that humaneness again, and she finds value in humanity again, which I think is like a really good subject to depict on film. Witnessing the pain of others surrounding you is sometimes like enough to knock you back into the proper mental pathways that you need to go down, especially when you're a child. I think a lot of people don't really like to talk about children. We're in like a society that like kind of really like doesn't care about children to like a certain extent, like definitely not more than like, the previous decades did. And so I think a lot of people, like when you get presented with like a topic that this film is trying to talk about in regards to like mass shootings and gun violence, you can apply that to other things that are not as like excessive and like permanent as that. Like you can apply this to like the idea of racism, right? You have a lot of kids who feel very insecure in themselves, and they look to racism to kind of like try to like imbue like pain into other people because they feel that way. They feel like they've been hurt, and they feel like they need a reason to be able to hurt other people, and so they use slurs and things like that. But at the same time, there's a lot of kids who they enact these racist acts, and then they see how that affects people from other people. They see that somebody else got called a slur and how it affected them and drove them to do something, and they're like, whoa, that's not right. I can't do that anymore. I should not do that anymore. And then they go on to not do those things anymore, or to be a proponent for being against those types of actions. And even if you don't want to use racism, we can use sexual assault. You have a lot of young boys, and girls too, I'm sure, but boys mainly, who are feeling very worthless and feeling very powerless and feeling very weak. And they look to the tool, for lack of a better term, of sexual assault to express their dominance and feel like they have power and they are strong and they are worthy of whatever they feel like they need to be worthy of. And they go and think like, oh, I can commit sexual assault. I can go stand close on this girl. I can go slap her ass. I can go rub up on this girl and things like that. But then some of them, they see what the effects of that is. They see someone else do it, and they're like, whoa, that was crazy. Like, whoa, that girl is hurt. She's forever traumatized. That is not cool. I cannot do that anymore. And then they go on to either tell other people like, hey, that's not cool, And we can even apply that concept to like suicide. Like a lot of children are suicidal. I was suicidal in 6th grade. And I think a lot of kids, especially cuspers or Gen Z, go through that because there's just so much concepts that we're thrown at nowadays in this modern age of adolescence. That causes you to feel so bad about yourself, and like it just spirals up and springs up. But people jump to doing these drastic actions to erase themselves because they don't want to feel who they are anymore. And what does that cause them to do? It causes them to harm themselves. But sometimes, like me, in a sense, you see somebody else harm themselves in a way that you hadn't gone to yet, and you're like, whoa, that's too permanent, or that's just not good. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't feel that way about yourself. And so then you retract from those thoughts going forward. And then you don't want to do that anymore. And you tell other people they should not go down that route themselves. So I thought that Emma going to be a leader in her community for gun violence and gun reform was really, really special. And I think it's really, really important of like something to depict on screen. But the film also tries to hit on the nuance of this idea in the sense that what does all of this matter? And when I say all of this, I mean like what does all of Emma's history in regards to this action that she was going to commit matter when all people of today, i.e. all the people surrounding her in this film, will take for her truth or your truth is what could have occurred, i.e. the mass shooting, and not what actually occurred, which is like Emma not doing it, and also Emma being a proponent against gun violence, right? And so we can just go ahead and get into all of the people's perceptions who are surrounding Emma in regards to her revelation. And we can start with Mike, right? So Mike, who is Charlie's best friend, and he knows Emma because she is getting married to Charlie. And he's played by Mamadou Athie, who is perfectly fine in this film. He has a generally neutral reaction to the revelation, in my opinion. He's taking like a more digestible approach to the information, and I think it's because like he kind of trusts who Emma is. I think he doesn't see Emma as like an aberration or like a stranger, or I think he sees Emma as like, this is gonna be like my sister-in-law to a certain extent. So he's not like, even though he's a little apprehensive when he first is like, whoa, are you being serious? He's like, that's very interesting. But he's not going to any extremes with his reaction, right? Also, Mike is the only other black person like surrounding Emma in this film, so I think that adds like kind of like another layer to like what his perception on her action would be, given that like, you know, he knows what it's like to be perceived as a black person when it comes to like impure acts that you can commit in society. Whereas, like, you have his wife, Rachel, played by Alana Haim, who has a very irate reaction to the revelation, right? And she's kind of, like, already feeling this, like, quintessential white woman, liberal, looking to, like, lord her morality over others in hopes of, like, being, like, a higher virtue role in this film. And, like, waiting for a moment to, like, pounce on someone so then she could just, like, be, like, superior to them in a moral sense. I heard when she's like, what's the tea, Emma? What's the tea, Emma? And, like, after like you watch this film, when I watched the second one, when Rachel's like, what's the tea, Emma? I'm asking back in my mind, I'm like, no, what's the tea on you, Rachel? But Rachel has like this very personal connection to such an act as well, because her cousin Samantha has been affected by gun violence, is paralyzed due to gun violence. So her irateness is kind of understandable to a certain extent, but also halfway not. And she just is like in this role of having like a very strong response to the revelation. And then we can go ahead and talk about Samantha, who is a victim of gun violence, but she has like a very nuanced perspective and reaction to the revelation, in my opinion. Now, granted, Samantha doesn't get a lot of time on screen. However, when we do see Samantha, or when we're talking about Samantha in the film, it's because Rachel's like, I have to consult with Samantha on me even being in your wedding anymore because she's a victim of gun violence. And if I was to just co-sign this, that could potentially hurt her. However, Rachel is in the wedding by the end of the film. So that tells us that Samantha was fine with whatever Rachel alluded or told her about what Emma was going to do in the past. And also, Samantha had a very odd interaction with Charlie on the street. So you would think like if she already felt iffy on Emma and then Charlie is weird to her, she would like be like, Rachel, don't do that. But the fact that Rachel still went, it shows that like Samantha's like, it's nuance, you know, she didn't do anything. Maybe that's how she feels. But also like, she's like, those people aren't in my life. So I really don't care. You do what you do, Rachel. That's your husband's best friend's girlfriend. Like just go to the wedding and don't be her best friend. Maybe that's the agreement they came to. So Samantha has like a very nuanced perspective on it. And then you go to like someone like Misha, who's on the Charlie end of it all, where she's Charlie's coworker, and she's like a pure outsider role in regards to the revelation. And you know, everything's hitting her from a very hypothetical standpoint. And so her reaction is very just like a basic like weirded out reaction. Like, that'd be very weird. That'd be weird. I think that'd be weird. And then even when she like does get confirmation that that actually like was a potentiality or like did occur, like Emma did think those things, she's like ultimately like unaffected. Like she's not really like, she doesn't leave the wedding. She doesn't like say anything crazy to anyone, I guess. She's just kind of like, there's some weird stuff going on. But because it's like none of her business, because essentially like she's just only there because like that's her colleague's wife. She's only here because like she works with Charlie. It's not because she knows Emma in any real way. And then also you have like all these other strangers in the film who are like lingering figures in regards to like what a response to such a revelation would be. But like they're strangers, so they don't really understand like even what is occurring, but like they're just interacting with the fallout that those characters are having. So like we can go like to Pauline, who's the DJ. And obviously like the dynamics between Pauline and Charlie and Emma are now weird because of this revelation, because they catch Pauline on the street doing drugs, and before the revelation, they're like, it's not really that bad. Like, nobody's gonna know, nobody's gonna care about what she does, nobody's gonna be trying to perceive the DJ, nobody's gonna know if she just does fine, that's totally fine. But then once the revelation happens, we get like this sense of like, perception matters. And everybody's like wondering like, what will people think about us? What will people think about us? What will people think about us? So then you have this low hanging fruit, which is Pauline doing drugs on the street and she's doing heroin on the street. And so it's just like, the couple then like kind of like just like ups the ante on their uncomfortability with Pauline, in my opinion. And so then that shows us what that dynamic would be like in real world with someone like Pauline in regards to somebody like Emma, who has given this like revelation. And then you even have like Alice, who's a wedding planner, but who's like kind of on the Emma side of it all, where like she just works for Emma to a certain extent. And so it's kind of like a worker-employee relationship, and Emma doesn't obviously give her any details, but things get very weird for Alice. She's asking questions. She's like, why does Rachel not responding? Why is everything getting weird? Why X, Y, and Z, this is that. So it's just like, even people who don't know the revelation are being affected by the revelation to a certain extent. And I think that's what Alice is here for. And then you have people like Frances, played by Zoe Winters, who is wonderful in everything she does. Love her here. Who is their photographer. And she's purely here for a professional perspective. Like, she does not care about anything that's going on. They're acting weird, and obviously she shoots weddings for living, so I'm pretty sure she's dealing with weirdo couples all the time. So in her head, she's just like, another weirdo couple. So it's just like showing us that type of perspective in regards to a revelation, if you were like, not in on what is actually going on. And then you also have people like the florist who like just shoo off the weirdness. Like, they're just like, oh yeah, girl, like I had a hard night too. I totally feel you. And then you have like the dance instructor as well, who's like just in a whole completely other world. Their dance instructor, she just like, do the choreography. You're paying me to do the choreography. What I do is dance. We dance here. That's like literally the energy she's giving. And so like, she just like, she doesn't care what's going on. But also like, we don't see her after the revelation occurs. So I don't think that the film really cared to even show like what what effect the dark revelation would have on her indirectly. And that brings us all down to the primary person whose opinion on the dark revelation matters the most, Charlie himself. And Charlie is here spiraling, right? He's spiraling about like the entire context of the revelation from all ends, right? So he's like contemplating whether Emma is still in fact like the aggressor she previously was as a child. He's trying to remind himself on whether he loves Emma or not. He's consulting others on the situation who have like no context, i.e. Misha. He's scared of Emma, like the knife scene, like he's really fearful of her. He's inferring way too deeply on like past events post-revelation. So like, he's looking at photos that they have around the house and is like, ugh, was she crazy then? He's like, the knife situation, he's like, ugh, are you crazy now? The mug situation, he's like, let's just like prevent any crazy that could happen. And then like the therapy stuff, he's like, can I get more context and confirmation that you've done everything you need to do so that you don't do something like that again? And even like the book, where it's like something that's like totally unrelated in a sense, like obviously you work for an art museum, you're going to get sent art things, and so he gets sent to this like feminist gun reform editorial book, and he thinks that it has something to do with like the current context of what he's going through, but it really doesn't. I mean, it does, but it doesn't in a sense. And then he goes to cheating. Like he fully like cheats. Like, yes, he does fully cheat. Like, he kissed Misha and then he was gonna have sex with her. Now he doesn't have sex with her, but that is cheating, especially when like you're like literally a week away from your wedding. It's like, you're really going down a bad road right now in regards to this. And he's just allowing all of this like internal turmoil to like seep out into like this external expression of fear, right? And Emma hits on this at one point in the film. She's like, we don't need to talk about this because like until after the wedding, because you fixate on things. You cannot get things out of your head if you start thinking about them. So like, let's just like not think about them until after the wedding, and then we can deal with that once we're married, right? And which is true, we see that here. And so we get all these different perspectives in regards to the dark revelation from Emma, yet all these people have done heinous things as well in their adolescence or in their adulthood. You know, what Mike did is not nice. That woman is kind of traumatized from her dates now, I'm pretty sure. Like, she's gonna be on the fence. Rachel, you locked like a neurodivergent autistic kid in the woods and like did not tell anyone. That child is pretty sure traumatized. They were there for like days. And then Charlie, like you literally, you bullied somebody to where they had to move to a different city. That person is probably traumatized as well. Yet they don't want to give Emma any grace in the situation to a certain extent. which I think is commentary on today's culture of personhood when it comes to like social media. We have a lot of conversations on social media about personhood, and these questions arise from a lot of people where it's like, are they a good person? Isn't this person dangerous? Aren't they problematic? And it's like those questions are valid in the real world. However, when you put it to like how people are perceiving personhood online in today's online conversation, it's never truly based in like logic and fact and nuance, but like almost purely on perception, because you don't know these people. So you can infer all you want, but you'll never truly know these people until you do. And the film wants to hit on that idea as well. Like the stranger or the friend or the foe that you know or don't know could be plotting to do something heinous in this world. And you just wouldn't know what they're plotting behind closed doors, because you just don't know. It's done behind closed doors and they can just keep a secret from you. And the film wants to like spark this conversation about like what the proper way to assess someone's essence of personhood is, right? Like where is the line of proper personhood, and like what momentum should the pendulum swing in regards to like moral judgment of people in society, and like what are the levels of unacceptable behavior in today's society, right? Because when I question myself, like if I was to ask myself, what would my personal perspective be of such a revelation? I don't really know. I feel like I and most people, because this is like a revelation that I don't think many people will ever encounter. I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comments if y'all have encountered somebody telling you that they try to commit such an act. But I think, given that like this is such a rare niche revelation that could occur in anyone's life, or anyone could hear someone else hearing someone else say, I think my perspective on such a revelation would be more akin to Mike or Misha, where like they're kind of just like very like taken aback by it, and they're gonna like pivot how they interact with the said person to a certain extent, but they're not going to like lash out or like, you know, be hysterical about the situation. That's just who I personally am. So I can't really say, but like, let me just try to, okay, here, how about this? How about I'll round table, and like everybody who's at the table, based on their role, what would I do in their shoes? So if I'm Rachel and my man, I don't have a man, unfortunately. I want a man. Send people my way, please. But if my man's best friend's girlfriend says something like this, I would be like, you need to tell your best friend, like you need to talk with your best friend, and y'all need to make sure that she's okay. Because I don't want to be in a room alone with her, and we kind of need to like all like, we might need to like have like, I don't know, like we might need to have like an intervention or something, like something needs to go on. If I was in Mike's role, where like my best friend, now I do have best friends, my best friend's girlfriend said that, I think that I would initiate an intervention myself if I was in Mike's role. I'd be like, I trust you. I'm already agreeing that you can marry my best friend, so I do trust you to a certain extent. I do like you. We need to like all flesh this out together, and make sure that like, you know, while we're here, yeah, like literally at that table right then, like, hey, you sure you're not still doing that stuff? Or just another day, we set up another day and we talk about that before they get married, right? Just to like make sure that we're all on the same page, that like we know that you have a tendency or potentiality to do something crazy, right? And then if I was in Charlie's position, like if my partner revealed something like that to me, I think that we would have a long, in-depth conversation. I think I would flesh that out a lot. And I know that like in the film, like Emma was not trying to have that conversation because she didn't really trust that Charlie was going to go through with the marriage if they kept having those type of conversations right like the week prior to the marriage. But I would be somebody like who like, we're having these conversations, we're going to talk about it. I wouldn't act like Charlie though. I wouldn't lash out and cheat or like, you know, act like she's crazy, or act like he's crazy in my sense. But it's like I would try to really get a pure understanding of who I'm marrying, because like that's what we're doing right now, right? We're getting married, and like this engagement is supposed to be a period where like you're trying to really understand like if this is the person you want to be with for the rest of your life. So we would do that, because the fact that you're honest enough to even tell me before we got married, even though like it wasn't on her own volition, but like she did say it before they got married, and she did tell him, and that has to count for something, even though it counts like just very little, because like you could have told me that like, you know, I don't know, like after like our first year of being together before but I guess like you really wouldn't tell anybody that before you get married to them. Like you just wouldn't. Like you would have to be married to somebody. Like you would kind of have to like make sure it's locked in. So I kind of understand Emma in that sense. So like my perspective on it is like, you know, we could get through this. This is something we can get through. We can get through it together, but we're gonna have to do the work. That's my perspective. So what are my main issues or like points of contention with this film? I don't really have any, honestly. Like I don't have any points of contention with this film outside of like the romantic, that chemistry between like Charlie and Emma, it kind of held my infatuation with the film back to a certain extent. I couldn't really like rave about this film because in my heart I'm like, I know there's some things that they just didn't do to like their best ability, which is i.e. like the romanticism. And so like the film, like it just doesn't do too much in regards to the romanticism, which leaves you like not feeling satisfied enough, and also like not feeling like they went over the top with like everything. I think some things they did go over the top with, which is great, but they didn't go over the top in that respect, and I kind of would want more of that. I feel like maybe they gave us like 2-3 more scenes of like them lovey-dovey pre-revelation, then like I would have bought it a little bit more. But the scenes they gave us, like, you know, the first date and like the first kiss, it didn't hit for me, unfortunately. And like, had the romantic chemistry like been better, I think this film would like ring in my head as something of like major value. Honestly, like it would really be like this, I would kind of like be talking about it right now as like one of the best like romantic dramas of like the decade, if not the best romantic drama of the decade in my head. Like nothing comes to my head off rip. I probably need to sit with that a little longer because like that might be a crazy statement to make. But I think like if they really nailed like the romanticism in this film, like there wouldn't be anything I could say bad about this film. And if I can't say anything bad about the film and all I can do is enjoy the film, like why would I not go to that length and say that it could have been like the best romantic drama of the decade so far? Now, criticisms that other people have with this film, like I haven't really even looked too into like the reviews for this film because I knew that people were going to be very weird about this film. People get very, very weird about Zendaya. And what do I mean when I say that? The people just like, there's people who are just very polar opposite about like Zendaya. Like they're very like extreme about Zendaya. They either like Zendaya, something about Zendaya like really irks them. Anything that Zendaya is doing like really like they're just never comfortable with it. It's not that they're like hating her, but like they're just never comfortable with it. But then you have some people like on the other spectrum where like everything Zendaya does is like perfect, and it just gets really weird really quick because neither of those are true, to my belief, I should say. A lot of people have been trying to have conversations surrounding like race in regards to this film. I have seen a few articles that are like talking about like, you know, Black womanhood in regards to like conversations surrounding like gun violence and how like this film like fails to do it justice and things like that. I think conversations surrounding like race when it comes to Zendaya and Zendaya roles is very like shouldn't happen in a sense, because one, Zendaya does not take roles that like represent like Black women or Black people. She takes roles that are like very like, you know, flat in regards to like the racial context, I should say, to it. And then also like Zendaya's projects that she does, like they don't care about Blackness at all. They don't care enough to dissect Blackness. Like even this film that kind of hits on Blackness in a few points throughout this film, it doesn't care to actually like make a statement on anything. It's like very passive things, and not even passive things where like you can't even like overlook it. 'Cause I'm pretty sure there's some people who just like overlooked the 3 moments that touched on Blackness in this film, and even then they're not really touching on Blackness, right? But then also Zendaya is like biracial. And so I think a lot of people, they do this thing where they try to apply like Black womanhood to Zendaya in the context of film sometimes. And I think that's like wrong because Zendaya is not like a full Black person and she doesn't appear as a full Black person. I think people discount that when people look at Zendaya, they do see like a half white person, and that kind of prevents them from being honest with how they're perceiving what Zendaya is doing as a Black character on screen, because you're not perceiving her as a Black character, you're perceiving her as a biracial character. And that's all Zendaya plays. She doesn't play Black characters, and Zendaya plays biracial characters. In every project she does, she's a biracial character. And so she herself is not even trying to like have those conversations or even hit on those conversations. And I know she says like, oh, I try not to steal like full like Black woman like roles, but it's also like no, we can go I could have a whole video about the whole like the context surrounding Zendaya's like career and like what she does in the film world, but I won't go there. So all I will say is that like people who are having these conversations surrounding race in regards to Zendaya in this film and Zendaya's role, most of the time it's going to sound like illogical, it's going to sound stupid. So I'm kind of just like trying to avoid all of that in general for this film in particular. Now, Zendaya does have a film coming out with Barry Jenkins at the end of next year, I believe, which is the Minnie Riperton biopic. And so I'm very excited to engage with that, because that will be like the first film that Zendaya engages with that is created by a Black creator, but also is about a Black figure. And so it's going to be something that's like undeniably Black. And I want to see like what Zendaya can do when she's in that environment. She's never been in like an undeniably Black film environment, and so I want to see like what that brings out of her, because it might bring something. It might be her breakout role, like breakout in the sense of like it might be like a role that people are like, whoa, what she did in that film, crazy. Like it might set a new high for her, or she could do the exact same thing, and we might be having a different conversation. But we'll come back around to that on the channel next year when that film comes out. Aside from criticisms, I do want to talk about like what I think is like the best attribute of this film. It's the technical pieces, right? Like the best thing about this film, in my opinion, is the editing. Anybody who's seen this film, you cannot say that the editing in this film is not good. The editing in this film is great, and we can just roll through like what I'm talking about. So like we have like all this the editing moments where the film is trying to show you Emma and Charlie's internal thoughts post the dark revelation. And so you have like Charlie thinking Mike would tell him like to leave the country, and then like Mike offering to like beat up Emma, like Charlie, like he's just going too far in his brain about like what he should be doing. And then you have the moments where Emma is envisioning that like Charlie wouldn't care about like the revelation at all the next morning, and he would just like immediately forgive her and be like all lovey-dovey with her, which was like very sad to see. But the editing of that was great because it's cutting through like the mid conversation. And so on my first watch, you're kind of like a little like you're questioning like what actually is real and what isn't. And on the second watch, I like fully clicked on what they were trying to do here, and I thought it was like very unique. You also have moments where like Emma is not wanting to talk about the revelation in the next morning, and she's like cutting to like her like being on the couch or on the chair and being like, I don't want to talk about this. That was great. And then you have a Charlie envisioning Emma's ear bleeding when they're like at the table like tasting the cake for the wedding. That was great editing as well. Another thing that I thought was unique when it came to the editing was like the flash forwarding to the wedding mass shooting. So like a lot of films like this, they hint at something crazy happening and later on in the film, and it does happen later on in the film, but they just keep hinting at it. And so like they're building your expectation until you get to that moment where you can like combust about whatever they've been building up to. But this film like doesn't do what it's hinting at, and it immediately hints at it, and then it throws it in your face. So then like you have that combustion like so quickly, and then like you're left like for a whole hour trying to like pick up the pieces of yourself about like what you're kind of thinking is gonna happen or what you feel like is gonna happen. Like you kind of feel like it's already over, but then like none of that happens, which is great about the film. Like it subverts your expectation. It makes you have expectations and then subverts them immediately. Thought that was great. Then you have all the flashbacks to the past experiences, right? So you have like the flashback to like their first encounter, you have the flashback to like their first date, the flashback to like their first kiss, you have like the pulling down of his pants flashback, you have Emma hiding her childhood photo from Charlie that her mom and her dad had sent her through text, and he's thinking back to that because he's like, I haven't ever seen you as a child. I'm thinking back to it now. That we're like talking about like what you did as a child. I like every time we try to talk about you as a child, like you kind of like steer away from it. Interesting. And then Emma yelling at the car driver, like he's thinking back to like, when has she been aggressive and violent? Oh, that day when she was yelling at the car driver, like that wasn't just her like just having a bad night. Like she might just actually be crazy. Great editing. Emma being aggressive like during sex. Also, he's just thinking like all these times where she's just been like overtly aggressive with him, like randomly aggressive with him. He's like, is she actually crazy? Like, is she fucking crazy? Or like, am I tripping? Or are those just like one-off instances, right? Great editing in that aspect. And then also another great editing aspect was like young Emma moments, like all the young Emma moments, like all the young Emma mass shooting, like contextual moments. I think they were edited perfectly because they're all happening in the context of like what Charlie perceives her as to a certain extent, but also like what Emma perceives her old self as. And like I think that's like a real way to key in how like these type of characters think. Like it brought us into mentality. It gave us a better understanding. I think like all the editing surrounding like young Emma gave us a better understanding of how like Charlie and Emma perceive Emma. Very interesting. And like and also like there's a lot of comedic moments there too. Like it's dark humor. Like this film is dark humor. Like you have the moments of young Emma where like it's the editing where like we cut to like Emma taking the photos with like the gun and smoking and holding the middle finger up to all the statues and all like the figures and things like that, and then like Emma like trying to record her farewell video after like she has committed the murder, and like they'll find it on her computer, but like the update for the new software is like having to be in place so that she can hit record longer and things like that, or she's just getting like all these like Microsoft like early 2000 like Microsoft updates that were pop-ups that were occurring happening, right? Very, very funny in my opinion. And then you have young Emma like blowing her eardrum out, like when it would cut to that as well, because they had referenced it, but then us seeing it is very like even more. Or even like Emma like trying like fake shooting the dog. We don't know if she actually shot the dog or not. Also, but like I thought all the young Emma editing was great. You also have like the moments of sound editing. So like there's a lot of editing that happened with the sound. So you have like that moment that I thought, there's two moments when it comes to sound editing that I thought were like great, right? You have like the moment where like the DJ is playing like the actual score of the film is playing, and then it cuts to like the DJ Pauline ripping out the chord, and like the score stops, and it's like very interesting. It's like a great transition with sound editing. Love that. And then you also have like that moment where like the new DJ, he's trying to like set up his stuff while Emma's dad is giving his toast to Emma. And like it sounds like a gunshot when he first puts in the chorus, and everybody like, ah! Because like Emma's dad had just talked about having a rifle, but also everybody who's like in the know in the room knows that like Emma tried to commit a mass murder. And so they're all thinking like this is a mass event, and like they heard a gunshot. It's like all coming to a head. And then even like the audience, like that moment is, that editing is so pristine, because even the audience got so scared. Both the shows I was in, when that fake out gunshot happens from the DJ stand while the dad is giving the toast, everyone in the theater, like, or majority of people in the theater were like, oh my gosh, or like they're just like, what the hell, like what the hell. Like my friends both turned to me and were like, what the hell. Like that was so good. And then you have all the editing regarding like the wedding shots as well, right? So you have like Emma eyeing Rachel, and then you have like Charlie eyeing like Misha, and then you have like Emma eyeing like Rachel and Misha talking to each other, and then you have like Emma hearing like Misha talking to Susan outside of the bathroom, and then you have like Emma going to get like the liquor and all of that stuff, and then you have like the assault on Charlie by Blake too, because like we see Blake get up from his table, but then like we cut to like an hour or two later, and then we come back and flash back to like what actually happened. What did Blake actually do to Charlie? Like I thought that was great. And I think like the editing also peaked with like all the like quick gags that we had in the film. So you have like the photo in the fridge. Like if you watch the film a second time, you'll notice that like when right before Charlie like notices the mug with a gun on it and he opens the fridge, there's a photo that Emma and him took where she's like holding like a fake gun to his head, and like that's like a quick gag. And then you have like the I will shoot like gag where like the Francis thing, like they had to go to the Francis meeting with like Zoe Winter's character, and then like after they have this conversation about like, hey, did you do that? Like, are you sure you didn't try to do it? Are you sure you're recovered from that? You're mentally stable, all that stuff. We cut to Zoe Winters being like, okay, so I'm gonna shoot your dad, I'm gonna shoot your mom, I'm gonna shoot your grandparents, I'm gonna shoot the in-laws, I'm gonna shoot like your best man, and then I'm gonna shoot like your maid of honor. Like funny gag. Like, and then we have like the florist gag as well, because like Charlie's thinking back to all like the aggressiveness that Emma has done before, and like the florist's like, hello, and they're like, oh, and he's like, oh yeah, y'all are being weird. He's like, I had a long night too, girl, like I understand. And then you have like the throw up shots too, like which also like weirded out a lot of people, but not me. I don't have a weak stomach, but all the throw up quick gags were very interesting too. It was just very unexpected, but also like it made sense because they're like, oh, Emma has been drinking. We have seen that they downed like 8 bottles of wine, so she has been drinking. Or like, you know, Charlie did just get his whole face bashed in, so the fact that he's throwing up blood is not like crazy, right? He also like just ruined his own wedding. His nerves are bad. All of those quick gags I thought were wonderful. Speaking of sound editing, let's talk about like the sound and score. Like I don't really have a lot to do like with the score of this film. I'm gonna listen to the score later on, but I try to like key in on the score my second viewing, but like I really couldn't key in because there was so much happening I was trying to pay attention to. There's also a guy sitting next to me who's breathing so loud. Like he was breathing so loud. I had to like really like treat him like white noise. It takes me like 2 minutes to like, if somebody's doing something habitually next to me in the theater, it takes me about like 5 minutes for me to like fully like turn them in my brain into white noise. So like I don't process anything that's going on over here or over here, and I'm just locked in. And so like it was hard for me to get into the score. However, I think like the songs they utilize in this film were very interesting. Like when we have that whole scene where they go to see Francis the photographer, and they start playing like Try Sleeping with a Broken Heart by Alicia Keys, like perfect song to utilize, and I loved that. I love when people use modern music, but like genuinely good and like apt modern music in current films, because that doesn't happen a lot. And then you have like the Inside Out song by Jessie Ray. which is like their song. This is a song that Emma utilizes to get Charlie to feel better about whatever situation they're in. But then at the end, Charlie plays that when he gets back home from the wedding and Emma is not there because he's like sad he's alone now, which I also think is like the funniest scene and probably might be my best scene of the entire film. I'm gonna say that my favorite scene of the entire film, I should say, is when Robert Pattinson, but Charlie, he's at the dinner table in their apartment and he's alone and he just left Emma the voicemail and he presses play on Inside Out, the song, and it starts playing and like he does what Emma tried to do at the beginning of the film when she plays the song. She's like, he's like, she plays the song, she tries to get me to dance. So then I feel better about whatever situation is going on. He plays the song and he's leaning down on the table and then he gets up and he like, Robert Pattinson like gets up, quick pivots to like dance. And he like does a little like motion like this, like a little quick like, oh, maybe I'll just have like a good night tonight. Maybe I could just have a good night tonight, but you can't. So like that literally both times made me laugh so hard. Like I hope somebody screen caps that. I want to save that video. Like it's so funny. I love that. Last minute casting thoughts. I think everybody in this film did fine. Honestly. Like Zendaya, there's a lot of times when I'm watching, like every time I watch a Zendaya performance, the first time I'm like, control it, girl, control it. There's some moments where I'm like, girl, what are you doing? But also on my second time around, I was like, Zendaya's choices in this film were actually apt. I think that her decisions in this film were great and might be the best decision making she's made in her performance catalog so far, in my opinion, honestly. Like, I'm gonna rewatch Euphoria because like season 3 is coming out in like literally a week, and I love Euphoria. Like I was there like from the beginning of Euphoria. Like if you weren't there in 2019, like I was, with like, you know, maybe like 100 or like 500 other people, you can't speak like I can on Zendaya, but I can speak on Zendaya because I was there for her breakout role. I was there when people were like, Euphoria is like fucking high school Gen Z slop. No, I was there. I was there when people actually were taking Euphoria seriously. Right? Yes. And I think that her decisions in either season 1 of Euphoria or in the drama are like the best decisions she's made performance-wise. And I'm always looking forward to more of her performances. Obviously, Robert Pattinson, he's always stellar. I'm really interested to see both of them in Dune 3. I think Robert Pattinson's gonna have a way more prominent role in Dune 3 than Zendaya is. So it's gonna be very interesting to see that flip. I also think, I never have an issue with Robert Pattinson, honestly. I have no issue. I have no performance of Robert Pattinson that I'm just like, no thanks. Alana Haim, I have no, I just can't have an opinion on Alana Haim. Like, I struggle to have an opinion about Alana Haim. I do. I'm sorry to her. Mamadou Athie, great, stellar. Love Mamadou Athie. I forget the film that he did where he was like the sommelier, I'm sorry, like the wine expert. Like it was a Netflix film that he did, like maybe like 2021, maybe 2022. I loved that. I think he was great in that film, and I think I would like to see Mamadou in a lot more things. Actually, I would like a black director to pick him up, and I would like them to get greenlit for like maybe like a small film. Maybe like I would like Mamadou to be in like maybe like a $40 million budget film. $40 million budget film, like a $40 million budget film, lead role, like put it in theaters, like something unique, please give it to me. Like he's great. Like he really is great. Like I think he's the only performance here where I'm gonna be like, he's great. Every time he's on screen, I'm like, he's doing what really needs to be done. Everybody else is doing what needs to be done. I think Mamadou is really doing what needs to be done. I like him. I do like him. Haley Gates, as I said earlier, Haley Gates, give her a leading role as well. Please give Haley Gates a leading role. Her in the moment, she was the heart of the moment in my opinion. And also she's like the MVP of the drama in my opinion. That whole sequence with her and Robert Pattinson between Charlie and Misha where he's like giving her the hypothetical about the dark revelation that Emma has. Stellar. Lovely. I loved it. I have no notes for her. I also think that when she like, after like they almost cheated and she's like, did you really just like rip my blouse off? And she like dramatically like puts it back on. Like she's so good. Like, I'm sorry, like Haley Gates is so good. Like give her a lead role. Please, somebody do something. Like seriously. And Zoe Winters, of course, is like great. Like if you saw The Materialist, Zoe Winters is like the best part of that film. And she's a great addition here as well. It's kind of like the same type of like essence of situation. Like, you know, weddings, people trying to get together, her being in that situation. Obviously she's on the flip side here. She's on like the professional end where she was on like the like client end in the Materialist. So I think that she's great. Like that's literally every time I see Zoe Winters, I can only like walk away and be like, I think Zoe Winters is great. My overall rating of this film, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I'm gonna rewatch this film a third time whenever it hits streaming. I already watched it 2 times in the theaters. I don't need to watch it again in theaters. But whenever it gets like on HBO Max, especially if it gets on HBO Max, I'm definitely gonna be watching that again. I hope that all of you go and watch the drama. But like I was saying, yeah, what I was saying, my overall rating for the film, I would give this film like a 4 out of 5. It's still 4 out of 5. It's an 8 out of 10 in my opinion. Like, I think this is a great film. I think any film that causes conversation, ample conversation in your brain for anyone, for multiple people, I think like everyone who walks away from this film, I don't think anybody can walk away from this film and not have ample conversation about what this film is talking about. I also think this film does a lot of unique things, and I think this film doesn't harm anyone. Like, I don't think this film harms anyone. Now, the people in the film have harmed people, but I don't think this film is doing any harm to anyone. So I don't think there's anything bad I can really say about this film. And if I can't say anything bad about a film, and I like a lot about the film, I'm gonna give the film a thumbs up, and I'm gonna refer it to everyone. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5, an 8 out of 10. It deserves it. That goes to say, bravo to Zendaya, bravo to Robert Pattinson, but bravo to Kristoffer Borgli as well. I haven't seen Dream Sequence with Nicolas Cage. That was Kristoffer Borgli's like debut feature film, I believe. I now want to watch it. I remember when it came out like 2 years ago in the theaters, but I now want to watch it because I'm like, I'm kind of interested in like his editing style. Maybe the editing is the same in that film, and maybe that film I'll be intrigued by. I'm not really intrigued by Nicolas Cage films though, but based on the drama being good, Kristoffer, I'm gonna give your debut feature film, if I'm correct, stream. So yeah. Thanks again for sitting and discussing the drama with me. If you agreed with anything I said, leave a note in the comments. If you disagreed with anything I said, leave a note in the comments. Please like, subscribe, repost, do anything you can to spread the word about the channel. I'm really gonna try to give y'all more, and I'm very excited to give more energy into this. I love talking about film, and we have a lot of good films coming up, but we also have a lot of films that already happened this year that I need to talk about. So I'm gonna be doing some videos on those as well. And stay safe out here. So, as I always say, I'm just a wannabe cinephile, and these are my thoughts. I will see y'all in the next video.